Fine. Now we'll see the JNDI service. In last session, I explained timer service as well as RMI service. Now we'll see the JNDI service. This is the most important service in real time. Must and should we have to use this service in real time, every application. Now you'll see why to go for this JNDI service. Why to go for this JNDI service? The main intention of to entering into this JNDI service, if we want to getting the reusability connection object, now we have to go for JNDI service, Java naming directory and interface. Through this JNDI service, we can get the reusability connection object. Generally, every day we are getting the connection object, but that is not a reusability connection object. That is directly we are hitting the database and we are getting the connection object. But in real time, that is not a good approach. We have to follow the JNDI service and we can get the reusability connection object. If we want to get the reusability connection object, directly we are not hitting to the database and we are not getting to that reusability connection object. We have to hit to the middleware servers like a WebLogic server, GlassFish server, JBoss server, JRun server. Like this, different application servers are there. We have to use any one of the application server and we can getting that reusability connection object. Fine. Now, if we want to get the reusability connection object, now we have to install, first of all, database server. We have to install database server. We have to install database server. Maybe it is the Oracle database. After installing the database, now we can install application server. This is the backend server. Maybe it is Oracle or SQL server. Or MySQL, etc. Now we can install middleware servers. This is application server. This is the application server called GlassFish server. Assume that. GlassFish server developed by the Sun Microsystem. We have to install in our mission this application server also. After installation, now database administrator or in the company some administrator peoples are available. They are going to be configured pool, where we can configure that pool inside the GlassFish server. This time the connection objects we are going to getting from GlassFish server, but not a database server. GlassFish server is responsible to producing to that reusability connection objects to the clients. Now clients was going to be utilizing that connection objects. This is what pool. Pool is nothing but collection of connection objects. We call them as pool. Pool is nothing but collection of connection objects. We call them as pool. Collection of connection objects. We call them as pool. Pool is nothing but collection of connection objects. We call them as pool. This is step number 1. This task is take care about the administrator peoples, but not Java programmers. Now, after that, we have to configure data source. We have to configure data source. Right? This is step number 2. After that, we have to configure JNDI name. JNDI name, Java naming directory and interface. Now here, key and DS. We have to configure like this, key and DS. Then finally, we have to configure this DS, right? These 3 steps was done by the administrator peoples. We are not responsible. Step number 1, 2, 3. These 3 steps was done by the admin peoples. We are not responsible. As a Java programmer, your responsibility is to getting this reusability connection object. Reusability connection object means, now this GlassFish server is given to the one connection object and we can utilizing. After that, once your task is completed, then automatically that object is going to be stored into the inside this pool. Now the same connection object is going to be assigning to the another client. That means the same connection objects was going to be utilizing the multiple clients. At that time, application performance is going to be increased, as well as database performance also is going to be increased. Now anyway, how to getting that connection object? This is my client. This is my client. This is my client. This is my client. Right? This is my client. This client wants to require for this connection object. If we want to getting this client, this connection objects, now what we have to do in our application, now try to understanding here. Generally, who is required for this connection object? This connection object is required for either Hibernate template or JDBC template. Those classes was required for this connection object, but those classes doesn't knows what is the GlassFish server and everything. You have to inform to the explicitly. We have to inform to the explicitly. Okay, hello Hibernate template or JDBC template. The connection object is available to the inside the GlassFish server or WebLogic server. Now we have to pick up that connection object. If we want to inform like that, now what we have to do in our client application, we have to do the following 3 steps. Number one, first of all, we need to get the system properties. Why we are doing these 3 steps? I want to getting that reusability connection object. Okay, without doing these 3 steps, now Hibernate template or JDBC template doesn't know what is the GlassFish server. That is the reason you should be informed to the explicitly. You should be informed to the explicitly do Hibernate template or JDBC template. How to inform? By developing these 3 steps. What are the 3 steps? First of all, we need to get the system properties. We need to get the system properties. How to get the system properties? Now properties P is equal to system dot get properties. System dot get properties. Properties P is equal to system dot get properties. After getting the system properties, now we can place that JNDI properties to that P class, P object, but not class, properties class, right? So now we have to place the JNDI properties to that P class. That means we can add the JNDI properties to P class. How to add? Like this. P dot put. P dot put. Now here context dot available to the naming package. javax dot naming dot star package. Context dot initial context factory. Initial underscore context underscore factory. This is the key, and the value also we can pass here. What is the value? What is the value? This is the value. This is the value. Com dot sun dot enterprise dot naming dot serial init context factory. Serial init context factory. Init context factory. Serial init context factory. The next second property, P dot put context dot provider underscore URL. Now here we can pass URL. Now what is that URL? IIOP /localhost 4848 is the port number. Now I am setting these two properties to this P class. The next third property, we need to set this P class once again to system. How to set? System dot set properties. Set properties of P. System dot set properties. Right? Set properties. That's enough. These three steps we have to do. Assume that if you are taking the WebLogic server here, whenever we are taking the WebLogic server here, now these properties are going to be changed. For example, assume that WebLogic server, this key is same but value is going to be different. What is the value? WebLogic dot JNDI dot WebLogic initial context factory. Initial context factory. Now what is the URL here? T3 /localhost 7001. That's enough. Like this, server to server, this JNDI properties are different. Java naming directory and interface. By passing these properties in our client application, that means keys are not. By passing this keys, we can getting this DS. We can getting this DS. We can getting that DS. After getting the DS, now this DS is going to be communicating to data source. data source, and internally this data source is going to be communicating to the pool, and it is picking connection object and gives to the that connection object to in our client. This is happening internally. This first step, second step, third step is done by the administrators. Fifth, sixth, seventh, fourth steps was done by the Java programmers. Right? Java programmers. Now, if we want to work with JNDI service, in configuration file, instead of configuring the 4 properties, what are that 4 properties? Driver class name, URL, username, and password. Instead of doing that classes, values configurations, we have to configure another class, that is JNDI object factory bin. JNDI object factory bin. See now like this. In Spring configuration file, we have to do this modification. Bean ID is equal to ID1. Class is equal to org dot framework. Spring framework dot JNDI object factory bin. Object factory bin. JNDI object factory bin. org dot spring framework dot JNDI object factory bin we have to configure. Then next, after that, property name is equal to JNDI name. JNDI name. Property name is equal to JNDI name, and value is equal to Durga JNDI, and close the bin. That's enough. This JNDI name we have to create inside the WebLogic server or GlassFish server. The next, whenever you want to work with WebLogic server, apart from that existing Spring jars, we have to use the another jar file called, that is weblogic.jar. WebLogic server. Now we have to use one jar file called, that is weblogic.jar file we can use. Whenever you want to work with GlassFish server, apart from that jars, now we have to use another 4 jar files. What are that 4 jar files? App server -admin.jar, app server -rt.jar. The next, JavaEE.jar. The next, IMQ JMSRA.jar. These 4 jar files we can add, and we can compile and we can execute. Right? Now we'll see this example practically. Fine. See, this is my application. This is my bean. JDBC template is required for that connection object, and I am selecting all the records. Fine. The next Spring configuration file. We have to configure org.springframework.jndi.jndi object factory bin. Now Durga JNDI we have to configure like this. The next JDBC template and my bin. In client application, what we have to do? We have to take the properties. The next, after that we can set this properties initial context factory. The next context.provider_URL. We have to set this to the next system.set properties. Then application context ctx is equal to new class path XML application context. Now spconfig.xml. Then object o is equal to ctx.getBean of id3. Right? Object o is equal to ctx.getBean of id3. Then my bean mb is equal to typecast, and we can load all. So now, before doing this execution and everything, we have to create the JNDI name. If we want to create the JNDI name, what is our responsibility? To start the GlassFish server and to create the JNDI. Now we can install the GlassFish server, download setup file, and we can install. After that, we can go to the bin folder and we can start the GlassFish server. Copy this location and we can start the GlassFish server. cd space paste here. Then next, we can start the GlassFish server like this. As admin start hyphen domain, the next domain 1. This is the way to start the GlassFish server. Now the GlassFish server was started. After starting the GlassFish server, now we can open the browser. And we'll make a request. Fine. http colon // localhost colon colon 4848. This is the way to log into the GlassFish server. Right. Now this is the GlassFish server admin console. Now log into this admin console, admin, the next password, admin, then login. After login to the admin console, now we can extract the resources at the left side and extract the JDBC, then click on connection pools. Click on connection pools. Click on connection pools. Under right side, click on new button. Under that we can enter the okay, pool name. For example, my pool name is what? Durga pool. Durga pool. This is the first step. This is the pool name. But in the industry administrator is take care about, but here you will be responsible. This is what? Second step. Data source. The next, vendor. So many vendors are there here. Oracle, Derby, Sybase, DB2, Pointbase, PostgreSQL. Like this, different databases are there. But right now we are using which product? Oracle. That's the reason I am selecting here Oracle. The next, click on next button. After that, here it is asking to the different options. Initial and maximum pool size 8. If you want change, then we can change. I am passing here 10. We can pass happily 10. Okay, 10. Now pool resize quantity. For example, here I am taken 4. Resize quantity means each and every time it is going to be once all the pool connections are completed, then immediately it is going to be hitting the database, this server, and it is picking the 4 connections at a time. That is pool resize quantity. Pool resize quantity. Maximum pool size 32. Ideal timeout 300 seconds. Maximum waiting time 6000 milliseconds. Like this, if you want change that values, we can change, not a issue. Then next, database name XE. Whenever we are installing in our mission enterprise edition, ORCL is coming. Whenever we are installing expressed version, then XE is coming. Then next, after that, we can pass password. We can pass password Durga Tech. Then next, port number 1521. The next URL JDBC : Oracle : thin : @localhost : 1521. Then service ID XE. Then user Durga Tech. Like this, we can change the some properties and click on finish. Now really our pool is created or not, if you want to check. Now just click on our JNDI name and click on ping button. Click on ping button. Ping is succeeded. That means our pool creation is successful. Then next, after that, we can create the JNDI name. JNDI name we are not created so far. We have to create the JNDI name. So how to create the JNDI name? We will see here. At left side, click on JDBC resources. Click on JDBC resources and click on new button at right side. Right side. The next JNDI name, Durga JNDI. Your choice, any name you can pass. Pool name, Durga Pool. Description is not required. Just click on OK button. Now the pool is created or not, just we can select this Durga JNDI text box. Then next click on enable button. Then automatically selector resources has been enabled. So far JNDI creation is successful. Then click on logged out. That's enough. Now don't stop the server. Server is running mode only. If you are stopping the server, we are not getting the connection object. Now open our application. This is my application. Now take this location. Now go to the command prompt. cd space paste here. Then next set the Spring jar files. Set class path equal to number one spring.jar. Number one is what? Spring.jar. Spring.jar. Spring framework. Under that number one spring.jar. Number two, commons logging. The next, number three, OJDBC 14.